The bone-shivering screech of tearing steel drowns out the roar of the engines for a split second. A Churchill tank is violently tossed by the impact of an 8.8-centimeter shell. Its turret freezes in an explosion of white-hot magnesium and molten iron. Out! Everyone out! Major Robert Fry of the 4th Somerset Light Infantry bellows against the hollow drone. Hot transmission oil sears his hands. Through the smoke, he sees the objective: the bald summit of Hill 112. At the decisive moment, the turret traverse jams. A millimeter of bent steel decides between life and death. This is Hill 112. Here, the logic of war collapses. The Allies possess air superiority, 10,000 tanks, and massive artillery. And yet, they have stood still for weeks, trapped, paralyzed. Why does this overwhelming force fail against an enemy that should have been long since destroyed? Erwin Rommel called this place the key to Normandy. Whoever holds it commands the roof of the world. Whoever attacks it enters an open grave. July 10th, 1944, 0500 hours. The night over the Odon Valley is not silent. It is heavy with the weight of the coming inferno. To understand this day, one must breathe the dust of the preceding weeks. The British still bear the scars of Operation Epsom. At the end of June, they had attempted to bypass Caen to the west, only to become bogged down in the bloody mud of the Odon River. That corridor, bought with so much blood, is now their death trap.
German forces
Only a few days ago, in Operation Charnwood, the Royal Air Force turned the center of Caen into a cratered landscape of rubble and ash. The German defenders, however, merely shifted their weight slightly to the southwest, here to the massif of Hill 112. While the Canadians bled out at Carpiquet Airfield during Operation Windsor, German observers looked down from this hill, directing their fire with murderous precision.
I see movement.
All these sacrifices, all these firestorms, led to this one unavoidable point. As long as Hill 112 remains in German hands, Epsom, Charnwood, and Windsor are unfinished tragedies. Major General Gwilym Ivor Thomas, commander of the 43rd Wessex Division, knows if this hill does not fall, the entire campaign will turn into a static slaughterhouse. Operation Jupiter is the necessary bridge for the breakout toward Falaise. The air over the Odon Valley is saturated with morning dew and the acrid smell of cordite. 250 heavy guns hammer the horizon into a rhythmic staccato. Hill 112 lies before the soldiers like a sleeping beast. A gentle ridge, barely 112 meters high, covered in waving golden yellow July corn. In the cold logic of planners, this hill is the roof of the world. Whoever stands on top looks like a god upon the Odon Valley and the spires of Caen. But whoever walks up enters an open grave. The geometry of this field is murderous. The hill rises so gradually that the men only perceive the summit when they are already unshielded in the ideal line of fire. As soon as the Shermans of the 4th Armored Brigade and the Churchills of the 31st Tank Brigade reach the crest, they silhouette against the bright summer sky. It is a moment of absolute vulnerability. In the hollows behind the crest, near Eske and Baron, the gunners of the Heavy Panzer Battalion 102 lie in wait. Under the command of SS Obersturmbannführer Hans Weiss, they wait with the patience of predators. Their Tiger tanks are positioned to strike the British vehicles at the nodding moment of the ascent, when the weaker belly armor is exposed. An 8.8-centimeter shell takes less than a second for 2 kilometers. This is not a battle, it is an execution by physics. The gunner in the Tiger presses his forehead against the rubber of the TZF optics. He feels the vibration of his own engine in his neck, a deep growl that makes the entire steel hull tremble. He adjusts the elevation by a millimeter. The reticle rests on the center of a Sherman's turret. Quick pull of the trigger, the tank recoils. Seconds later, he sees the British turret hurled meters into the air. Down in the grain field, fear becomes a physical burden. The corn stands 2 meters high, a yellow wall that robs all orientation. The infantrymen of the 5th Battalion, Duke of Cornwall's Light Infantry, hear the snapping of the stalks, but they cannot see the enemy. It is a world of yellow stalks and gray dust. Every rustle could be death. The German grenadiers of the 9th SS Panzer Division Hohenstaufen are pressed deep into the earth. A metallic click, the rhythmic tearing of stalks. Suddenly, the fire of the MG-42 cuts through the silence. The soldiers throw themselves into the hard clay, clawing their fingers into the ground while steel whistles above them. The heat is so murderous that the grease in the bolts of the Lee-Enfield rifles turns liquid. The men wipe chalk dust and sweat from their eyes, but their vision remains blurred by the smoke of burning tanks. Every breath tastes of diesel and death. A soldier next to Fry clings to his rifle, his knuckles white with tension. He sees the burning Churchill in front of him, hears the screams of the men inside hammering against the jammed hatches. A sound he will never forget, the hollow knocking on steel that slowly dies away in the roar of the flames. Churchill crocodile tanks roll forward, their mechanical joints screech under the weight. They spew liquid fire into the hedges, a sticky orange hell that sucks the oxygen from the lungs. On the opposite side, SS Obergruppenführer Wilhelm Bittrich watches the scene. He is not a heartless strategist, but a technocrat of necessity. He watches the British advance and knows that Thomas is driving his troops into a funnel. He orders his grenadiers to hold fire until point-blank range. The German soldiers cling to their weapons. They are not machines, but they are part of a defensive system that knows no retreat on Hill 112. The gunner of a Tiger wipes the sweat from his eyes. He feels the vibration of the engine. He waits. Shot, hit, kill. British mass is neutralized by the technical necessity of German optics. It is 14:30 hours. The summit of Hill 112 is a place where time seems to stand still while metal melts. Major Fry and the remnants of the Somerset Light Infantry have reached Calvary Wood. But what they find is no longer a forest. It is a graveyard of splintered beech and torn flesh. The trees stand like warning fingers against the sky, their crowns shot away, their bark shredded by shrapnel. The men dig desperately with bayonets and bare hands into the hard earth. Every spade stroke sounds hollow, while the incessant barrage of the Nadelwerfer regiments looms over them. The horror in Calvary Wood is the result of a ballistic trap. German artillery observers use the treetops as triggers. Their shells do not explode on the ground, but in the air. These airbursts turn every branch into lethal shrapnel. For the British soldiers, there is no cover. The forest becomes the butcher. The wooden splinters penetrate deeper than metal. They shatter bone. They shred uniforms.
I'm almost done.
A medic kneels in the
make
dust.
it?
His hands are red.
You're gonna be
He tries
fine.
to tie off
Stay
an
with
artery.
me.
The next impact in the canopy above ends his efforts. The echo of the shells in the woods is a snapping, bursting sound. It cuts through bone and marrow. While the infantry bleeds out in the woods, the mechanical duel unfolds on the plateau. The Churchills attempt to push forward, but their 75mm guns simply bounce off the massive front armor of the Tigers. A Tiger gunner in his burning hot fighting compartment feels the vibrations under the tracks. If he fails, he burns in seconds. He sees the flicker in the reticle. The heat on the hill is now unbearable. It is not just the July sun, it is the burning wrecks that make the air shimmer. Burning bills lie everywhere. The smell of roasting flesh and diesel oil lies like a carpet over the soldiers. Many men of the Wessex Division have not slept for 48 hours. Perception blurs. The Wyverns are fighting against total exhaustion. A radio operator tries desperately to contact headquarters. He hears only static. The screams of the infantry are distant. General Major Thomas receives only fragmentary reports. He sees the mushroom cloud over Hill 112 and orders the reserves into action, the 4th Battalion of the Wiltshire Regiments. But the path up is a bottleneck. The only track is under constant German mortar fire. Medevac tanks collide with ammunition trucks pushing upward. Drivers scream at each other while shells rain down. Here, strategic planning breaks against the physical reality of space. Bittrich recognizes the moment. The British momentum is spent. He gives the order, counterattack. The 9th SS Panzer Division. Hohenstaufen pushes from the east, while elements of the 10th SS Frundsberg pinch Calvary Wood from the south. The German soldiers storm forward, their throats dry, their faces masks of fear. They use the shadows of the hedges and the hollows of the terrain. For the British, it feels as if the hill itself is coming to life to spit them back down. A young grenadier jumps into a trench. He sees the blue eyes of his opponent. A second of silence, then survival instinct triumphs. By 1800 hours, the catastrophe reaches its peak. The Wessex Division is pushed off the crest. Hill 112 is once again a German hunting ground, strewn with the smoking skeletons of British tanks. Montgomery's calculus seems to have failed. But looking at the macro level of the campaign, a different picture emerges. Although the British lost the hill, Operation Jupiter pinned down the German elite reserves, the 2nd SS Panzer Corps. Bittrich wanted to throw these tanks against the American breakout in the west. Instead, they are here, in the dust of 112, ground down and decimated. The tank tracks grind the grain and the bones into an indistinguishable mass. At the end of this 10th of July, Hill 112 remains a bald tomb. 9,000 men of the Wessex Division are dead, wounded, or missing. The key to Normandy is lubricated with blood and bent by the heat. It no longer fits any lock. As the sun sinks behind the burning grain fields, the survivors know the roof of Normandy is still burning. Epsom, Charnwood, Windsor, and now Jupiter, a chain of tragedies that all converged on this one point. The summit of Hill 112 remains a smoldering memorial, yet the road to Falaise is still locked tight with German steel. Jupiter did not force the door open, it merely tore it from its hinges. The 43rd Wessex has paid the ultimate price to pin down the German panzer reserves here, in the dust of the Odon Valley. The lesson of Hill 112 is a bitter one. Infantry and armor alone shatter against this defense. Allied command realizes that if the hill does not fall, the entire plain must burn. The gaze shifts to the east, toward the plains of Caen. There, the largest armored force in history is preparing for a strike that will cast everything before it into the shadows. Next episode, Operation Goodwood.